It seems that every single video out there is telling young men that they're running out of time, that they're running out of time to get the life that they want. And I understand the urgency, but I don't believe it's the right path forward. Because I used to be someone that would watch a lot of this sort of hustle content, a lot of this, you need to do it now, now, now content. And I think that that worked for some period of time, but I think the issue is that if you keep consuming that content, or at least in my experience, I built up a lot of anxiety of, right, if I'm not making the full 100% of every single day, then I'm not going to get where I want to be. And although I do understand there is some truth of that, right? I think if you're not taking the right actions, every day to aid towards your goal, I think that's obviously makes sense. But at the same time, not every day is going to be as good as it can be, right? I've had days where I've been working really, really well. I would work 10, 11 hours a day. I feel great. Other days, I wouldn't feel as great. Some days I might feel ill, or, things with family might pop up and things might not go as well. And I would really beat myself up about it. I'd beat myself up about it, and I wouldn't really just, I'd never really be quite satisfied. I'd never actually enjoy the process. And that was a really interesting thing that I saw. People tell you, oh, enjoy the process, but I never really was. And it doesn't actually seem that a lot of people actually are, because I feel at the time I was so much more driven by anxiety than I was actually to enjoy the process. And for example, right, with what I'm doing now with YouTube and also developing video games, I'm enjoying the process, right? I like what I do, and I'm trying to stay away from the hustle culture stuff, because although I am constantly reminding myself that I do need to turn up and do this, I do need to make sure I'm actually doing this as best as I can. At the same time, depending on the type of person you are, for me, like, I also like to be able to spend time with friends and family. I also like to be able to, work on a few other things and take a break every now and then. And at the end of the day, I think this video is going to resonate with, someone who wants to enjoy a bit of life in a different few ways, right? That wants to work on things meaningful to them, but doesn't want to actually sacrifice everything else, doesn't want to just necessarily throw everything else away. And I found that the whole urgency thing of, you're running out of time, you're running out of time, for me, it almost felt like I was running someone else's race. That I was trying to, just compete with loads of other people, and I needed to work more than other people, and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, I think the message I'm trying to get across is that it is important to work hard towards things that are meaningful to you, right? To spend time on that and to build that up, that's important. But I think sometimes what I realized is that I would almost lose sight of where I was headed, because all this hustle sort of culture, content stuff kept almost pushing me into someone else's lane, pushing me into someone else's race, where I felt, right, well, if I'm not working this amount of hours, if I'm not sacrificing X, Y, and Z, then I'm never going to get to where I'm going. Now, I know for the stuff I'm working on, it's not a matter of if it happens, it's a matter of when it happens, because I have that level of confidence that I will make this work. And that's very different from when I was driven with anxiety. So ask yourself those questions. Ask yourself if actually what you're doing at the moment, if that's something that is driven purely by anxiety, not to say that a bit of anxiety is the problem, but if it's purely anxiety, or whether you actually have a level of confidence in your ability to actually execute and get the outcome that you're looking for. Because I found I've been able to enjoy the process a lot more when I actually have confidence in what I'm doing, and I'm not having to, just throw myself and slave away at the sort of thing I'm doing, as opposed to what I used to do as well. So ask yourself those questions. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll chat soon.